Imagine you're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. You earn more, you buy more. Your monthly costs quietly climb, and no matter how hard you sprint, the finish line doesn't get closer. What if the real game isn't to run faster, but to step off the treadmill and build a machine that runs for you? Today you'll learn how to start building that machine. In the next few minutes, you'll get the unconventional money lessons from Rich Dad Poor Dad distilled into simple everyday moves. You'll see why some people keep getting stuck in the same loop while others escape the rat race. You'll learn a clear test to tell assets from liabilities, how to turn fear into fuel, and how to build skills that quietly compound. If you stay to the end, you'll have a short action plan you can start in the next 24 hours. Here's the story behind the book. Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two father figures. One was highly educated, loved by his students, and believed in the traditional path. Get good grades, secure a stable job, climb a ladder. The other had less formal education but thought like an entrepreneur. Learn how money works, own systems, build assets. One dad would say, work for money. The other would ask, how can money work for you? The book isn't about shaming jobs or glorifying risk. It's about a shift in vocabulary, habits, and perspective. It speaks to anyone who feels trapped by bills, who's curious about financial independence, or who senses there's a different set of rules that no one explained in school. Let's translate those rules into 7 core ideas you can actually use. First, know the game you're playing. Many people chase a growing paycheck, then reward themselves with a nicer car, a bigger apartment, a few subscriptions that look cheap but add up. That's the rat race. Income in, expenses out, nothing left to buy time. The game Kiyosaki proposes is different. Increase the flow from assets while keeping expenses calm. Picture 2 buckets on your kitchen counter. One bucket pours water into your sink every month. The other quietly leaks water away. Assets are the faucet. Liabilities are the leaks. The simple test from the book is this. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. If your fancy purchase demands monthly payments, insurance, upkeep, or it loses value and never sends money back, it's a liability dressed in designer clothes. Why this works is simple math and psychology. Math because cash flow is gravity. What goes out must be replaced or you sink. Psychology because what you choose to buy signals the game you think you're in. Apply it today by making a 2-column list. On the left, write things that pay you. Dividends from your own skills, a small service you offer, royalties if you create something, or any system you build that keeps producing. On the right, write things that cost you every month without return. The common mistake to avoid is calling something an asset just because it might go up someday. The test is cash flow, not hope. Second, work to learn, not just to earn. The poor dad in the story prized specialization. Get really good at one thing and keep your head down. The rich dad prized a toolbox. Sales, communication, basic accounting, negotiation, understanding how taxes and rules affect decisions. Why does this matter? Because income follows problem solved, and big problems rarely fit neatly inside one skill. Imagine you run a small weekend project offering a simple service. If you understand how to price, how to talk to customers, how to track income and costs, and how to iterate the offer, you've built a tiny university inside your life. The money you earn might be small at first, but the skills stack quietly. Apply this by picking one skill to practice for the next 30 days. If you fear selling, practice making low-stakes offers. Sell 3 unused items online and study the words that make buyers respond. If you dread numbers, create a 1-page cash flow sheet for your life. The mistake to avoid is waiting for confidence before you practice. You earn confidence by practicing in small arenas. Third, manage emotions around money, especially fear, cynicism, laziness, and arrogance. The book argues that fear of losing keeps many people from ever starting. Cynicism blocks curiosity. Laziness hides behind busyness, and arrogance refuses to learn because I already know. A practical way to flip fear is to pre-write your worst-case scenario and how you'd recover. If a small project fails, what's your plan B? Learning project postmortems turn pain into tuition you only pay once. To counter cynicism, ask for one test instead of 10 opinions. What's the smallest reversible step? To beat laziness, schedule learning like a recurring bill. 10 minutes of money reading, 15 minutes of skill practice, 20 minutes of reviewing numbers. To remove arrogance, assume every room contains someone who knows a piece you don't. The mistake here is swinging to the opposite extreme, reckless risk with no margin. The goal is controlled exposure to small risks that teach you faster than any textbook. Fourth, pay yourself first and build systems. It's easy to pay everyone else, the landlord, the utilities, the restaurants, the algorithm trying to sell you things, and forget to pay the most important person, future you. Paying yourself first means deciding that a slice of every dollar you touch goes toward building or buying assets, even if it's tiny at the start. This isn't about starving yourself, it's about enforcing a habit that forces creativity. When a fixed slice is already spoken for, you'll find ways to cut waste or create income to cover the gap. The system matters more than the size. Automate transfers, name the accounts with a purpose, and protect that slice like rent. The error to avoid is rigidity without review. If the system causes stress that makes you quit, adjust the percentage down and rebuild the habit. Another mistake is calling speculative bets paying yourself. Paying yourself means strengthening resilient assets, skills you own, systems you control, creations that can keep paying.
Fifth, master the language of money, cash flow, balance sheets, and income statements. You don't need an MBA to read the story your numbers tell. Cash flow is the bloodstream, what flows in and out each month. The income statement is the movie of your performance across a period. The balance sheet is the snapshot of what you own and what you owe. Most people only look at their income, I make X, and ignore the rest. That's like judging a book by its cover. Imagine your month as 3 boxes. Box 1 shows money earned. Box 2 shows money spent. Box 3 shows money assigned to assets you're building. When you track these, you'll notice patterns. Subscriptions you forgot, hobby expenses creeping into needs, or assets that quietly started paying more. Apply this by drawing 3 boxes on paper and filling them once a week. Circle one number each time you review. 1 expense to cut, 1 asset to nurture, 1 experiment to try. The mistake to avoid is obsessing over pennies while ignoring big leaks. Hunt the biggest line items first. Sixth, understand that different roles play by different rules. The book highlights that employees, the self-employed, business owners, and investors experience money differently. Employees trade time for salary and often pay taxes before seeing what's left. Self-employed people own a job, their time still caps their earnings. Business owners build systems so others' time and tools produce results. Investors allocate money to systems that generate more money. Each path has privileges and responsibilities, and none is morally superior. The takeaway is awareness. If your current path taxes your time, consider building a tiny system on the side that can operate without you someday. This might be a small digital product you create once and sell many times, a service you can delegate parts of, or a knowledge resource that earns royalties. The shift is from only trading time to also owning processes. The mistake to avoid is abandoning a stable base too soon. Keep your foundation while you prototype small systems in safe corners of your week. Seventh, learn to spot opportunities others miss. Rich Dad challenges the idea that you need a lot of money to start. What you need first is a trained eye. Look for value hiding in plain sight, a niche problem in your workplace that you can solve and charge for as a package, an underused asset you already own that could serve someone else, a way to bundle services into a monthly plan rather than one-off digs. A powerful exercise is to list 10 problems you or your friends complain about, then ask, would someone pay for a done-for-you solution? Start with one micro offer. If it resonates, you've built a tiny asset that can be refined, documented, and eventually delegated. The mistake to avoid is obsessing over pennies while ignoring big leaks. Hunt the biggest line items first. Let's stitch these ideas together with a few wow moments from the book's worldview. First, your home, the place you live, is not automatically an asset in this framework. If it drains cash each month and never pays you, treat it as a personal expense you consciously choose, not as an investment trophy. That mental clarity helps you right-size your lifestyle. Second, taxes and rules matter. The way you structure your work, your projects, and your systems can change how money flows through your life. This doesn't mean doing anything extreme. It means learning the basics, asking better questions, and recognizing that the code was written by people to influence behavior. Third, debt is a double-edged sword. Used blindly, it cuts you. Used carefully, on assets that reliably pay more than they cost, it can be a lever. If you're not sure, keep the blade sheathed. Finally, the biggest expense for many people isn't rent or food, it's ignorance. Not knowing the rules, not tracking the numbers, not practicing small deals, not developing new skills. Education, applied active education, often pays the highest return. Now, how do you apply this without turning your life upside down? Start with the simple cash flow cleanse. For 1 month, capture every dollar in and out. You're not judging yourself, you're becoming a scientist. Each week, circle one expense you can eliminate or reduce and move that amount to your future you slice. Next, practice a tiny offer. Find 3 people who need a small result, editing a resume, organizing a spreadsheet, designing a simple graphic, tutoring a concept, or cleaning a backyard, and sell the result, not your time. Deliver, ask for feedback, and improve the offer. You've just built an asset, a repeatable mini-system. Meanwhile, pick a skill to stack. If it's communication, record yourself explaining a concept in 90 seconds each day. If it's numbers, read 1 page of a beginner-friendly accounting guide daily and translate it into your own words. Finally, commit to a weekly meeting with your money. Same time, same day, coffee in hand. Review your 3 boxes, update your asset list, and choose 1 micro-experiment for the week. This rhythm is how you compound. Here's a quick micro-story to make this vivid. 2 friends both get a small raise. One treats it as oxygen for lifestyle. Nicer dinners, new gadgets, more convenience fees that look tiny by themselves. The month still ends tight. The other friend gives the raise a job. It moves automatically to a build assets bucket. She uses half to learn a new software tool that cuts a repetitive task at work in half, increasing her value. She uses the other half to test a service on weekends, setting up that same tool for small businesses for a flat fee. 3 months later, the service earns a little every weekend. 6 months later, she documents the steps and hires someone part-time to deliver half of the work, while she handles sales calls 1 evening a week. It's not flashy, it's not famous, but it's a tiny engine humming in the background. That's the shift the book is about.
Let's talk about common traps so you can sidestep them. First trap, confusing a high income with wealth. If expenses and liabilities grow just as fast, you're still sprinting in place. Second trap, waiting for the perfect plan. Perfection is procrastination wearing a tie. Favor small, reversible moves you can learn from. Third trap, shiny objects. If you can't explain how something makes money in 1 clear sentence, you probably don't understand it yet. Keep it off your plate. Fourth trap, outsourcing thinking. Hot tips feel exciting, but they often replace your analysis with someone else's confidence. Do the boring work of understanding. Fifth trap, fear of looking foolish. You will look awkward in your first negotiations, your early offers, your first attempts at reading numbers. That's the tuition. Pay it once, reap it for years. As you practice, remember the mindsets from both dads. The poor dad values security, credentials, and steady paths. There's wisdom there. Responsibility, reliability, education. Keep that. The rich dad values ownership of assets, skills that travel, and systems that scale. Add that. You don't have to reject one to apply the other. You can be a great employee who also builds assets. You can love your profession and still design a small machine that pays you while you sleep. The point is optionality. To make this even more practical, imagine your life as a small board game with 4 squares you move around each week. Square 1 is learn. What skill or rule do you add to your mental model? Square 2 is build. What tiny asset do you create or improve? Square 3 is earn. What offer do you make to a real human? Square 4 is review. What did the numbers say and what will you change? Every lap around the board, your character levels up. Not because a boss promoted you, but because you promoted yourself. Before we wrap, here's your start in 24 hours checklist turned into a simple narrative you can follow. Tonight, do a 10-minute asset liability audit. Write down every recurring cost and circle any item you could eliminate without reducing your quality of life. Choose one and cancel it. Tomorrow, set up an automatic transfer, however small, to your Future You account labeled with a purpose like Build Assets. Pick one skill to practice this month and block 10 minutes for it on your calendar every weekday. Draft a 1-sentence offer that solves a small problem and send it to 3 people who might need it. Record a short reflection each Sunday. One thing you learned about money. One decision you'll make differently. One person you'll ask for advice. These tiny moves look humble, but they compound into confidence and options. Let's recap the big ideas so they stick. 1. Switch games. Measure success not by how fast you run, but by how much your assets flow. Use the simple test. Does it put money in your pocket or take it out? 2. Work to learn as much as to earn. Build a toolbox of communication, numbers, negotiation, and basic rules so you can solve bigger problems. 3. Master your emotions about money. Turn fear, cynicism, laziness, and arrogance into experiments, questions, rhythms, and humility. 4. Pay yourself first and build systems that protect a slice for future you. The system matters more than the size. Consistency beats intensity. 5. Learn the language of money, cash flow, income statements, and balance sheets. Numbers tell a story. Read yours weekly. 6. Understand roles and rules. Time traders have limits. System builders create leverage. You don't have to quit your job to start a small system. Prototype safely. 7. Hunt for persistent problems and craft tiny offers that solve them. Document, refine, and eventually delegate. These aren't theories. They're habits you can fit into real life. If there's one thought to carry with you, make it this. Money is not just arithmetic, it's architecture. Every small choice is a brick. You can keep patching the ceiling every time it leaks, or you can spend a little time each week moving the walls, adding a window, and building a door that opens to a bigger room. Start where you are, with what you've got. Build one tiny asset, then another, and another. That's how you exit the treadmill and step onto a path you designed. This is educational content, not financial advice. Do your own research. Thanks for watching. If this summary helped, please like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments which book you want us to summarize next.